All right, everybody, welcome back for another's deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that blows my mind in this day and age is, yeah, we're living more and more in the digital world, right?
Right.
Um, and the question of ownership is one that's always kind of fascinated me. Like, you can say you own, a Bitcoin or an NFT or, some kind of digital asset,
Uh-huh.
but how do you actually prove that you own it?
Right.
And it makes me think a lot about, the mystery of Satoshi Nakamoto.
Right. Exactly.
The creator of Bitcoin who just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Vanish.
Nobody knows who they are.
Correct.
And so many people have come forward over the years
Yes, so many.
claiming to be Satoshi.
Uh-huh.
And so today's deep dive is going to be kind of like a detective story,
I like it.
right? We're going to be looking at how you can actually prove ownership of a Bitcoin address.
Very cool.
And we're going to use this as a way to maybe,
Yeah.
separate fact from fiction when it comes to, these people claiming to be the mysterious Satoshi. So we're going to be looking at this great article here. It's called Educational Article, Proving Your Satoshi Nakamoto, the Real Test of Bitcoin Ownership.
Great article.
And I think this is going to be a fascinating discussion. So let's dive in.
Well, it's interesting because, as you said, the mystery of Satoshi has been something that's captivated the crypto world since the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the fact that this person or group of people just disappeared and, they created this revolutionary technology and then they just kind of vanished.
Into thin air.
It's incredible. And it really kind of feeds into this idea that anybody could be Satoshi.
Right.
And so you've had over the years all these different people coming forward, making these claims, and it can be really difficult to sort through who's telling the truth and who's, trying to capitalize on this mystery.
So if somebody comes out and says, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto,
right?
What's the first thing that we can look at to see if they're telling the truth?
One of the most fundamental things, and the article talks about this, is the Genesis block.
Oh.
The very first block in the Bitcoin blockchain.
Now, I've heard of the Genesis block, but can you explain that for maybe somebody who's not as familiar with it?
Yeah, so the Genesis block is like the foundation of the entire Bitcoin system.
Okay.
It was the first block, ever mind. And it's kind of the symbolic and very important piece of Bitcoin history.
Right.
And what's really interesting about the Genesis block is that it contains 50 Bitcoins that are permanently unmovable.
Unmovable.
They're locked. They're like frozen in time.
So like I couldn't just go and transfer those Bitcoins right now?
No, absolutely not. Nobody can.
Okay.
It's written into the code of Bitcoin itself that those coins will never move.
So that's a pretty good starting point then, right?
Exactly.
Like if somebody says they're Satoshi and they're going to prove it by moving the Bitcoins for the Genesis block.
Instant red flag.
We know they're lying.
Absolutely, right there. You can just stop listening.
That's it. Case closed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good first step. But what are some other ways that we can actually look at proving ownership of Bitcoin addresses?
Well, one of the things that the article delves into is this concept of using cryptography.
Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a cryptography expert.
Sure.
I hear that word and I think of,
complicated math.
Yeah, complicated math, secret codes.
The spies and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds.
Oh.
When it comes to proving Bitcoin ownership.
Okay.
And the key here is something called a digital signature.
Okay.
So think of it this way. Your Bitcoin address is like a safe. And your private key is the combination to that safe.
Okay.
Now, if you want to prove that you own that safe without actually opening it and showing everybody what's inside, you can use your private key to sign a message. Digital message.
What do you mean by sign a message?
So it's kind of like putting a seal on a document.
Okay.
You're using your private key to create this unique digital signature that's attached to that message.
Yeah.
And because your private key is the only key that can create that specific signature, it proves that you're the one who signed it.
So it's like a digital fingerprint.
Exactly. It's a way of proving that you control that Bitcoin address.
Without actually having to move any Bitcoin.
Exactly, without spending any money.
Which is good because you don't want to have to be moving your Bitcoin all over the place.
That's right. Keep secure.
Just to prove that you own it.
Exactly.
So how do we actually verify that signature?
So there are these awesome websites and tools available.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that the article mentions is verifybitcoinmessage.com.
Verifybitcoinmessage.com. I like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember.
It is.
Okay.
And basically you take that message.
Yeah.
You take the signature and you take the Bitcoin address, plug it into this website, and it does the math for you.
Okay.
And it'll tell you, yes, the signature is valid. It matches this address. Therefore, we can be confident that the person who created that signature controls that Bitcoin address.
So you don't even have to be a cryptography expert.
Not at all.
You can just plug this up into a website and it'll tell you if it's legit or not.
It makes it really easy for anyone to verify these claims.
Well, that's good because, like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there claiming to be Satoshi.
Right.
And, probably the most famous case of this is Craig Wright.
Yes, Craig Wright.
He's been in the news quite a bit.
Yeah, a very controversial figure.
Yeah, claiming to be Satoshi. And I think he even went to court over this, right?
He did. He actually sued somebody for libel because they said he wasn't Satoshi.
Wow.
And it was a whole big thing.
So what happened there?
Well, so the court basically said, okay, Craig.
Yeah.
If you're Satoshi, prove it.
Right.
Provide a cryptographic signature.
From one of the Bitcoin addresses that everybody knows Satoshi controls.
All right.
And he couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it.
He failed to provide that proof.
So even with all this legal pressure, he couldn't actually back up his claims.
And that's the technology.
Yeah.
And what's even more interesting is that after he made these claims and failed to prove them, messages started appearing on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Wait, messages? How do you get a message on the Bitcoin blockchain?
Well, it's a little technical, but essentially you can embed data in Bitcoin transactions.
Okay.
And so people were embedding these messages that were cryptographically signed by the actual owners of the addresses that Craig Wright claimed to control.
So the real owners came out of the woodwork.
They did.
To say, hey, this guy's a fraud.
Essentially, yes. They were calling him out.
Wow. That's like...
It was a very public way of debunking his claims. So I guess the lesson here is if you're going to claim to be Satoshi, you better be able to back it up.
You better have the cryptographic proof because the Bitcoin blockchain is a permanent record of everything that's happened.
And people can use that.
And people can use it.
To prove or disprove claims.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like the technology is self-correcting in a way?
In a way, yes. It's like this immutable ledger that can be used to verify or debunk these kinds of statements.
So what about, there's other people besides Craig Wright who have claimed to be Satoshi.
Right.
More recently, there was this guy, Stephen Mola.
Stephen Mola, yeah.
What happened with him?
Well, Stephen Mola made similar claims, saying that he was part of the group that created Bitcoin.
Right.
And he also failed.
He couldn't back it up.
When challenged.
With the cryptographic signatures.
He couldn't provide the proof.
So another case.
Is a case.
Of the technology, basically.
But the technology.
Exposing.
The ultimate arbiter of truth.
Yeah, it's almost poetic in a way, right?
It is.
That the technology itself can be used to
verify these claims.
Expose these frauds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the code is the law.
In a way, yes.
So what does all this mean for, our listeners out there who are interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that you need to be skeptical.
Yeah.
You can't just believe everything you hear.
Don't trust, verify.
Exactly. Always ask for proof.
And that proof can be as simple as
the cryptographic signature.
A cryptographic signature.
A signed message.
Which you can check.
What you can easily verify.
On a website like verifybitcoinmessage.com.
Exactly.
So anybody can do this.
Anybody can do it.
You don't have to be an expert.
That's the beauty of it.
That's pretty cool.
It's empowering.
It is empowering.
It gives you the tools.
Yeah.
To sort through the noise.
And, it makes me think, like, if I were Satoshi Nakamoto and I wanted to prove to the world who I was, but I didn't want to actually reveal my identity.
Right.
How would I do that?
That's a really interesting question.
Right.
I mean, it's this challenge of how do you prove something while maintaining your anonymity?
And it makes you wonder, is it even possible?
Yeah.
Or is that just the ultimate paradox?
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
It is.
And I think it's one that we're all going to have to grapple with more and more as we move into this
more and more
digital age.
Well, on that note, I think we'll leave it there for today's deep dive.
I think that's a good place to stop.
But for all of you listening out there, think about that. If you were Satoshi, how would you prove it?
How would you convince the world?
Without revealing who you are.
Without giving up your privacy.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
For another deep dive.
Bye.
Bye-bye.